أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. الله الكريم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. الله الكريم. Again, we are grateful to God for giving us this opportunity that we have today, and this is not by chance or fortune and luck. This is by divine design and providence that we are here today, and so we are privileged and honored to have this time that we can actually make a connection to our Creator in a congregational manner, and so we are of the same mind and heart. And God has put those souls together and are thinking the same way and would like to worship God alone, and they will not waver on that mission that God has given us. And so we are abiding by His will, that we are created here to worship God. And so God says that I did not create jinns and humans except to worship me. And so that's the task we are endowed with, and it's an honor. It should not be a burden. It should be an honor for us and a privilege. And so we are endowed with this huge favor that God has bestowed upon us. Again, gratefulness and appreciativeness is a godlike quality, and we have to follow His path, His favors that He's given to us, and so we should be grateful for everything that He's done for us and He's doing for us. And so all the things is coming from God, and so we should be grateful and appreciative of God's blessings. What I want to talk to you about today is let's see here. I'm going to go to let's see, what is it? Just had it here. And by the way, everything that I have, I'm going to show you is on the web already, so you don't have to write anything down. And so it's available. This thing is available on the web. So we'll go with that. And so again, I want to go to the exponent of the 19th Gaussian Mersenne Prime. And it is 353. The 19th Gaussian, the exponent of the 19th Gaussian Mersenne Prime is 353. And 353 happens to be the sum of the frequencies of Ha plus Mim in Surah 42. Now, the structure of these Gaussian Mersenne Primes is this is the exponent, this is the power of some complex number, which is 1 plus I. I is the square root of -1. And so this number, 353, is also a prime number, okay? So when I didn't know about this, and I was looking at, Rashad's counts in his book, published many years ago, 40 years ago, and what I noticed that only one of them, 353, which is the number of Hamim in chapter 42, happens to be a prime number. The rest of them are not prime numbers. You can check it for yourself. So that was always a puzzle for me. Why is it this way? But anyway, then at that time I looked at it, and 353 was the 71st prime number, and then I found out that 4271 is actually the possession of Hamim in chapter 42, and you can check it from the number of verses from the beginning of the Quran to 42:1 is actually 4,271. And chapter 42 also happens to be the 71st uninitial surah, and so we can look at it from that point of view. But now we know a lot more about this. So one of the things that you see here is 19 and 42. You multiply those two numbers together, you get 798. And again, back in the good old days, or the days of that we didn't know much, we were not privileged to the information that we have today. We went ahead and looked at chapter 19, and Rashad did, and counted the number of Kaf, Ya, Ain, Sad in chapter 19, and it turned out to be 798, and 798 happens to be 19 times 42. But today we know why that's the case. Okay? We know that. This comes directly from the exponent of the 19th Gaussian Mersenne Prime. That's why it is like that. Okay? 42 comes from that. So here, and 753rd composite happens to be 538, and 753rd composite happens to be 438, and 438 composite happens to be 538. And we discussed this before, okay? And before somebody says, why are we jumping over to the other one, okay? The reason for that is that 38 has two missions here in this argument that we are presenting right now, okay? 38 happens to be the ordinal value of the word Muhammad, and also 38 happens to be the number of verses in chapter 47 which is called Muhammad, okay? 4 is the number of times that the word Muhammad has been mentioned in the Quran, in the text of the Quran. 5 is the number of times that the word Muhammad has been mentioned, including the name of chapter 47, which is also Muhammad. You understand that? Okay? So pay attention to these things. These are very important ways that God is speaking to us through the language of mathematics. Okay? So again, we immediately find out that 538's Non-Chen Prime is 9127, and there it is. Okay. And now 798's Gaussian Composite happens to be 13613. 13613 Lonely Gaussian Prime happens to be 548. And 548th Additive Prime is 9127. Okay? So you see, now this, first of all, it goes to the chapter 19. Okay? It tells you, well, first it tells you how many hamim is supposed to be in chapter 42. That's the first thing. Second thing, it tells you that how many frequency of Kaf plus Ha plus Ya plus Ain plus Sad happens to be in chapter 19. It tells you that. Okay? So again, I didn't count it. You understand this? This is very, very crucial to understand. You cannot grab a Quran and start counting from that, okay? And then try to make a case. First thing you have to do, you have to establish the veracity of your source. That means, are you sure about the way things were spelled in that text of the Quran that you did? Okay? What is your reasoning for that? What is your justification? Are you sure that that is correct? Can you imagine that you bring God to this low level that he actually relies on some text which is written on some kind of piece of paper or something? Is that the opinion that you have of God? That he's unable to record it in any other way or fashion? That's an insult to God. Okay? That's something which you are saying which is below God's dignity. So what is this, this preserved scripture that God has? What is it? It's right here in front of us, and we're looking at it. Then what it tells you that who was the guy who brought this down? Okay, it was this guy. I gave him the mission to deliver this, and that guy was Muhammad. Okay, so we come in here. Then 798 Gaussian Composite happens to be 13613. Okay, and this one happens to be the lonely Gaussian. The next one, you see, 548 is the index of the lonely Gaussian Composite. Okay, and 548 Additive Prime happens to be 9127 again. God is not going to let you go. God is not going to let those people who penned the scripture, who added things as they wished to do, because those people, they never believed, okay, that God is. Obviously, if you don't believe that, then you don't believe that He's sending messengers and He's sending scriptures. Then you change that text of that thing according to your own wishes and make a mockery out of everything. Okay? The number one scientific way, okay, that you have to do an experiment, to do anything which is valid, you have to verify the authenticity of your source. That's number one rule. If your source is not authentic, that experiment is completely invalid. That's why I have so much trouble, okay? And I don't want to hurt people's feelings, okay? I don't want to hurt people's feelings. And somehow I think that I probably, come out as some kind of arrogant guy, that he doesn't look at our stuff. Our stuff is just as good as this stuff. That's not the case, my friends, okay? It really hurts me when I have to write those things down and tell you about it, okay? But I have to tell you, because those stuff are not valid. You have to tell me why you are saying that that's supposed to have that kind of structure. You have to prove it to me. If you cannot prove it to me, that piece of paper is invalid. Okay? Remember when they went ahead and counted all those things, recounted? Aren't they different counts now of those initials? You know why? Because those people didn't believe in God, then they didn't believe that God also sends messengers. They never believed that Rashad was God's messenger. That's why they did it. They said, we can do as good as he does. We can do this by committee. So if some intelligent people who know enough Arabic and can add a few things and divide a few things, okay, they're just as good as his stuff. No, that's not the case. He was inspired how to do that. That's why we are coming up with the same numbers in this mathematics. Haven't you ever thought about it? Why these numbers are coming the same numbers as his? We have to ask these questions. We owe these questions to ourselves. Okay? It's 2023 for crying out loud. Okay? Okay? And so we are still stuck in that nonsense. Okay? And so people will not understand it. Questions come up. People want to ignore them. They don't want to talk about it. There's so many things on chapter 19 comes in here. Okay? Do we know everything about chapter 19? Do we know everything about Mary and Jesus? Do we know everything about Zechariah? How many messages are in there that we ignored, that we didn't say anything about it? When a question comes up, we have to think. Okay. When God says about Adam, okay, he says that once I perfect him and blow into him from my spirit, okay, then you shall honor him. That's to all the angels. Okay? God says the same thing about Mary. I blew into him, we blew into her from our spirit. And then God says the creation of Adam and Jesus were the same. And then Jesus, the baby Jesus, talks. Have you ever thought about it? Why? That's a sign, isn't it? It's a huge sign that we have ignored. How does he know that he is God's messenger? He's a prophet of God. That God has given him the scripture and has made him a prophet. How does he know that? The baby. How does the baby know that? Okay? Was that baby the same baby as the other babies that you have? Your baby can't talk. Your baby doesn't know what's going on. 10-year-old kids don't know what's going on. Okay? Grown-ups don't know what's going on. That's why they're running away from this forum. Okay? They think they're safe. But as I said, God will not let go. 9127. Keep saying 9127. 9127. 9127. Okay. So don't play with this. That's what God says. So I'm going to stop here and we'll finish this unit. Allahu Kabir.